This is your fate.
Yo, what's going on, guys? Juggermonster here, and today we're going to be talking about one of probably my absolute favorite game I have ever played, Dark Souls. Now, Dark Souls is a game made made by From Software, and it is a RPG. It is somewhat, I guess you'd say, medieval based. I don't know. It's sword and shield. It's magic. It's all sorts of amazing. It is the most complex RPG I think I've ever played that has sustained any of my attention ever at all. It is the greatest thing ever. Now, this game is notorious for being hard. I honestly don't think it to be a hard game. It's not that difficult. All it is you need to put the time in and learn the game, and time played has a significant factor into skill. I have beaten the game multiple times with multiple characters. Hey up there, how you doing? You're a demon. But I have beaten the game multiple times, multiple characters. I have done PvP, I have done all sorts of things. Beaten the DLC tons of times. Done all sorts of crazy stuff, and I absolutely adore this game to the point where it's not even funny. Alright, let's get started here. Q. This game has been out for kind of a while now, to be honest. And if you haven't heard of it, I don't know where you've been, hiding under a rock. Sequel is coming out soon, and by soon I mean March, I believe they're announced. 2014. This game is so amazing. When I first was recommended the game, I had heard things about it and I wasn't a fan. I decided, you know what, I don't really want to play it. I'm not going to. Doesn't seem like it's my kind of game. But I kept being told, no, try it, just do it. I promise you won't be disappointed. It's worth it. Just give it a shot. So finally I rented it, and then I played it, and then I played it, and then I played it, and played it, and played it, and then I beat it. And then I continued to play more. And the more I played, the more I just needed to play more and more and more. This is probably the game I have sunk the most time into of all of my games, including my previous favorite, Oblivion. Now, you have your standard attacks, you have light attack, you have a heavy attack, but one thing not many games, and to my knowledge no current game does, is you can put your weapon in two hands right now. You don't have to have a weapon that requires two hands, like say Oblivion or Skyrim, where certain weapons you have to hold it. I don't need that. You have to hold it in two hands. You can freely switch between shield or two hands. The shield allows you to block, and it also allows you to, if I don't, lose, parry. Yeah, let me heal up. Now let's say I don't have a shield. I can't block, but I can parry. And I can punch him in the face because it's funny. But when you parry, you can riposte to do crazy amounts of damage. You can also do a backstab for less, which all you gotta do is circle around to the sweet spot behind them. Alright, we're gonna get ready here. Swig up. Hello. And plunging attack for mad amounts of damage. And jump attack for crazy damage. And one swing and you're dead. Wait for it. There we go. But yeah, this game, there's all sorts of different things. I'm not going to get into anywhere near the amount of complexity that this game has. But I'm going to do my best to cover all the important things as we move along here. And I'm going to skip through any cutscenes just because it's going to speed by. This is hopefully not going to be too long of a video, but the more I play, the more I'm just going to ramble on about how much I love the game. Now, as you can see, I got the achievement again. For some reason that's bugged for me. But as you can see, my character looks absolutely disgusting right now. Kind of zombied out, hollowed eyes, red, disgusting skin. But what we're going to do is we're going to use one of these humanity here. And that adds to our soft counter up in the corner. And we reverse hollowing. And voila! I'm back to normal human. Now we can use these souls to level up, but right now I'm not worried about it. Let's take a look at the inventory. This is your overall items you have on you, and all that kind of stuff. This is what's currently equipped. This is your hotbar, you can add things in. This is for bolts, crossbow bolts, this is for arrows. This is your ring slots. This is your offhand, this is your main hand. Both of these each. And then you have probably the most important screen you will ever see in the entire game, the stat screen. This displays pretty much everything you could possibly want to know, and you can hit Y, or at least for the Xbox, Y, or I believe triangle for PlayStation, to bring up this display, which is kind of like the character select extra display that tells you everything. The name of your character, all your starting choices you made, and then the stats and the current equipment. But this screen here shows you everything you'll need to know. It shows your name, your covenant, which we'll get to hopefully later, your level, the amount of souls you have, which is your currency used to level up or purchase things, your health, your how do we say this, your spell slots, or how many spells you can currently, how many points you have into how many spells you can learn, I guess we'll say, how much endurance you have, how much strength you have, dexterity. Resistance is essentially just how much it takes to cause you to bleed, get poisoned, get cursed, as well as I think minor defense defense boosts. Intelligence, how strong your magic is. Faith, how strong your miracles are. And then this is just your humanity counter. Now, when I reversed hollowing, that used up the humanity, so it's no longer in that pool. But over here, we'll start at the top. We have your current number of HP. By the way, all of these values here, these numbers, are not directly saying you have 12 health. That's how many points you have into the I need to learn to speak. That's how many points you have into the vitality stat. So 12 vitality will put you at 616 without any other augmentations. So that's how much health you have. That's how much stamina you have. That's your equip load. This is fairly important. So health, pretty straightforward. How many points? When you reach 0, you die, and you have to respawn. The stamina is used for your swinging, your rolling, pretty much any attacking in any sense, because I don't want to just say swinging. but you're attacking, you're running, you're rolling, and you're blocking. Your equip load is what you're wearing and holding on your current character in the left side, and how much maximum weight you can possibly hold before you get over encumbered and basically almost can't move. Different numbers, different percentages we'll say, will cause different amounts of movement. Now as you see here, I took off some of my armor, and that's because as I roll, I'm kind of slow. I kind of do a quick little attempt at a roll, then kind of roll along my back and kind of slowly get up. But if I take these off, I then do a quick little roll with a quicker recovery. And this is an incredibly important mechanic in the game because you have what's known as invincibility frames, meaning when you roll through an attack, if you time it correctly, no matter what your equip load is, if you can roll, there are invincibility frames and you cannot be harmed during those frames. Now there are some things that you can't roll through because they just attack in a way that rolling is useless. But for a lot of the basic combat, that's what happens. Now let's return to the screen. This is the damage output of your right-handed weapon 1 and then 2. This value, even though I don't technically have anything equipped, is just showing the damage output of my fist. And then the left-handed weapon and left-handed weapon 2, which again in this case would be a fist. Now you'll see, sorry about that, that was an unexpected yawn. You'll see that it says 20, but when I was punching the skeleton guy, I was doing 1 damage. These do not account for the enemy's resistances, which we'll get to ours in a few. But this doesn't account for any of theirs, so this is not saying that hitting somebody with my weapon does 107 damage each and every time. Different enemies have different resistances, just like you will have different resistances. Speaking of which, your physical defense entails 3 different types of defenses. This is just striking damage, this is slashing damage, and thrusting damage. Strike is basically blunt force attacks, slash, obviously slashing attacks, and thrusting being thrusting attacks. Your magic, flame, and lightning defenses. And then we get over here to a very, very important and overlooked stat, your poise. Basically, it works in increments, and unfortunately, I don't know exactly the increments because it's incredibly complex, but the higher this number goes, the harder it is for an enemy to stagger you. At 0 poise, any bit of damage will cause me to get staggered for a moment. This stat is raised either by a ring, if you can find it and equip it, or by your armor. Different armors add different defenses and different amounts of poise. Currently, none of mine adds any poise. Now you have bleed, which is the bleed effect basically means there are going to be certain items or weapons that cause bleed buildup, and once your meter fills with bleed, your character is then bled out, and a percentage of your health is immediately knocked off. Not a percentage of how much health you currently have remaining, but a total percentage of your total health is immediately cut off. Poison, once the meter fills, it caps out and then poisons you, and you begin to take damage and then the meter slowly starts to drain, and once it's drained, you are no longer poisoned anymore, but that usually isn't very helpful because you'll need to heal a lot and things like that. So you're going to want to cure the poison. Now, one thing they don't tell you is that you can also be toxified, which is essentially a super poison. It takes a lot more of your health per second and requires a different type of item to be cured, a rarer, more expensive item. But I believe this stat covers both. And then curse, there are a few different methods in the game that can curse you, and upon curse, you will instantly die, and when you respawn, you will be semi-permanently stuck at half capacity of your maximum health. So I would be at 308 out of 616, and I could not heal past that. The only way to remove this is by purchasing an item and using it, getting it as a drop from an enemy, or paying to have your curse lifted. Now, your curse resistance, unlike these stats, will be heavily influenced by how much humanity is in your soft counter. Item discovery is how easily it is. How do I word this? The higher this stat, which caps out at I believe 410, the more likely you are to find items off of corpses of dead enemies that you have personally killed or have died around you. And then 2-minute slots, this is how many spells you can currently learn, I guess you'd say, and be ready to cast at the time. Alright, that's enough time spent on this. Let's go ahead and move on. You'll see here the hotbar, your usable items. You can swap things in and out and use them. This right here is a Soul of a Lost Undead. There are very many variants of soul items. These are crushable, and when you use them, which we can either go through the menu like this and go forward and use it here, or we can just have it in the hotbar and use it. That adds a little bit to our soul counter in the bottom right. And then this is your Estus Flask. This is your main source of healing. And this resets at the bonfire, which are the key checkpoints essentially. The bonfires are where you'll respawn. You have to activate it and you'll respawn at the last one you sat at. So, as I go through here, I just want to point out, I have a very, very long history with this game compared to many of the other games I've played. Between the amount of gameplay I have personally done, the amount of gameplay I have watched, the amount of things I've read about the game, there is a lot I know about the game, and I'm still learning things every day, and so are other people, and so that should tell you just how crazy this game is. That it's been out for, I think, at least, oh wow, it's gonna hurt, at least well over a year. I think approaching 2 years this next upcoming month. And there are still things people are learning. There are many, many things between the lore of the game and the actual mechanics that people still do not have definite answers on. Now, since I touched on it, the lore of the game is incredibly important to me personally because it's the most realistic lore I've ever seen in any video game. There is nothing that just shoves it in your face, says this is the storyline, this is what's going on, here's all these details, here's all this dialogue. You're going to sit here for 90 minutes of cutscenes and things like that. No. There are very, very few cutscenes. typically the cutscenes are necessary to explain the situation that's going on and rarely have dialogue. I am playing terribly while talking. So here we actually managed to pull off a backstab. Now, these Estus, once they're gone, I have to rest at a bonfire to get more, and only certain ones can give me 10 right now. The default number will always be 5. Now, this game absolutely rewards exploration. If you do it right, there's tons of things to get to, but not all of them are readily available, like right here. This is a broken staircase, but there is a way to get up there. And then these here are fog gates, or white light, depending on the nomenclature you choose to use. These are essentially dividers for each section. They don't really do a whole lot most of the time. They either signify a slight change in area or a boss battle. Dragon. Actually, that's considered a drake, but we won't get into that. Or is it considered a wyvern at this point? Not sure. I know there's a lot of sticklers for it. Now, one thing I haven't talked about is you can, if you're two-handing a weapon, or you have it in your offhand, you can block with it, but each weapon, or each item I should say, has its own stats as far as what it can block and how much stamina it uses. Now you'll notice I am using my weapon in two hands more often than not, and there is a reason for this. Now that I'm kind of safe and over to this side here. The reason I'm using this weapon in two hands is because my character has a high amount of strength, and this weapon benefits more from strength because of the scaling. If you look at the stats, it looks kind of crazy. Once you get familiar with this screen, it's very, very easy to know what's going on very quickly. On the left side, top, it tells you what type of attack style it has, and then on the left it tells you that. On the right it tells you what type of weapon it is. On the left it shows you the attack values. It's got the base stat plus the scaling from whatever scaling you see down below, and then the amount of critical damage it does percentage wise. And then on the right it shows you basically what defense values you get for damage reduction when used to block. Stability is how much stamina is used to, or how do I put it? The higher the stability, the less endurance it uses to block, the less stamina it uses to block each attack. Now, on the bottom left, you have parameter bonus. That is essentially the scaling. It shows you strength, dexterity, intelligence, and faith. This weapon has a C scaling in strength, and D scaling in dexterity. So the way strength scaling works is the higher your strength stat, the more damage your weapon will do. An added thing that most players don't know until later on in the game is when you're two-handing a weapon, it gives you even more scaling from your strength, which there's no way to do that with dexterity, unfortunately. And then on the right, the requirement parameters tells you what stats you need to wield the weapon effectively. The strength stat, as long as you have 3/4, I believe is the equation, 3/4 of the required strength, you can two-hand the weapon. But if you have all the strength necessary, you can use the weapon effectively in one hand if you choose. And then you have auxiliary effects if it has a bleed, a poison or toxic, and then if it does magic damage or occult damage or divine damage or occult damage. And then you have durability. When a weapon is used, it uses up durability and needs to be repaired. This can be done very easily and should be done very often. And then finally, the weapon's weight, how much it weighs when it's equipped on you. And the shield screen looks identical. And we'll come down here. Oh, too early. Oh, way too early. Alright, I'm back. For some reason, these slower strength weapons are so hard for me to parry. So come over here.
Well now, you seem to have your wits about you, hmm? Then you are a welcome customer. I trade for souls. Everything's for sale.
This guy. Alright, so most importantly, we'll come over here and we will buy yeah, we'll go ahead and buy the residence key first. I don't think there's gonna be too much that we're gonna want from him. We're a strength build, so let's think about this. Daggers don't use strength. Short swords not focused on strength. Same. The hand axe is a weapon focused around strength. The club is one of the best strength scaling weapons. Reinforced club, kind of. It's got a bleed effect, so that's handy. And then we can get different shields. Our shield is actually really good, so I'm not gonna get rid of that. And then we could buy other things, but we're not.
Thank you.
So let's keep going. Now, a quick way to compare weapons, now that I have a slew of them, is if you hit the Y or triangle button on the controller, when at this stat screen, or this menu screen, it'll toggle the stats, and you can see which weapons scale more. Now currently, the club doesn't scale as much as the reinforced club, it doesn't do as much, because even though it's got slightly better scaling, the base damage is higher on the reinforced. But the more strength we pump into our character, the more that this weapon will be more viable. So we'll just stick with this for now. And here we have our first bonfire we've come across in the new area. We light it, and then we rest it. Now we can't reverse hollow, we can't kindle. Essentially, reverse hollow would put us in the state we are now where we're human. To kindle this bonfire would mean that instead of giving us 5 Estus, it would give us 10, which means double the healing. And then we can level up. How many levels can we get? Just 2. So we're going to put 1 into strength, and then 1 into endurance. I like to pump a lot of endurance because it gives me more attacks, more defense, more rolling, and more blocking. Also more weight, maximum weight. Alright, I feel like this is a good time to check. It still doesn't do more than the reinforced club. However, if I hold this in 2 hands, these values are going to change. Now they do the exact same amount. So if I hold it in 2 hands, it does more, and it does the same amount as the reinforced. So we'll go ahead and hold the club for now. Now as you kill enemies, you get souls from them. Each type of enemy can give you a different amount of souls. Kill him through the wall. This game does have a lot of ambushes ready to take you out. I haven't done it yet, but I guess what we can do, instead of playing safely, we'll kind of play kind of fast and loose, and not worry about whether we're going to die or not. That way I can show off what it looks like. So we won't even bother healing up. If we get damaged, we get damaged. But there's a lot of things, like if you chose to skip over this because of the door, this guy would end up seeing you and shooting with a crossbow, and you'll have to backtrack. And by that point, you'll have aggroed all of these guys, and so they'll be ready to attack you. Ooh, that was close. Probably end up dying against the Black Knight regardless, so I'll probably heal up before we do it. Alright. Now, line of sight and sound is very important in this game, because if you can get that in your favor, you can sneak up on enemies. Let's go back here. Oh, too late. Timing on your parries is super, super important. If you mess that up, you're pretty much good as dead. Hopefully he doesn't just walk. Hopefully he starts running soon. There we go. Oh, come on. I had that. Alright, come on. Alright, that's all the healing I got out of the Estus for now. There we go. And that's the most damage we've done to him so far. And you can two-hand riposte if you can time it and position correctly to get even more damage. And that's going to be it for him. Now, he had a chance to drop a very strong weapon that we would have been able to use fairly quickly, but fortunately that's not how it all turned out. So now we have a lot more souls, we can level up again. And this is a very, very important mechanic. This is not just a single player game. This can be played cooperatively with random people via this system here, the summon signs. Alternatively, people can use items to invade your world where their entire purpose is to kill you to gain humanity for themselves. And it's a very, very interesting mechanic. It causes a lot of chaos. Some people just play offline the entire time, but you don't get as much out of it if that's how you play. You miss out on a lot. And we'll pump a little bit more into strength here. So now, if we just one-hand this, it still has slightly better scaling. One hand, let's get these fire bombs out of there. Oh, what's it doing? Oh, yeah. But it doesn't have as good a scaling when I use it in two hands. Okay, Titanite shards are used for upgrading, same with the Titanite chunk we got. So from killing so many enemies in each area, you get a little bit of humanity, and different areas require different amounts of enemies to be slain. However, you stop gaining humanity after the area boss has been defeated. Also, if you've defeated the area boss, you can no longer be invaded in that area. Okay, there we go. So if you're really worried about it, one option you can do is to hurry up, rush through the area, and get to the boss, because you can't be invaded in the boss area, nor can you be invaded after you've already beaten them. That's a nice trap. Okay, here's another trap. Sometimes you can just roll right through it, other times not so lucky. Now here's one of the funnest parts of Dark Souls, the barrels. Sometimes there's things in them, sometimes there's not. But you don't always want to attack the barrels because sometimes there's friendlies in there, and if you attack them, they're not so friendly anymore. Now I happen to know the secret in this one. And there we go, more upgrade material. Okay, I do have it. We will get this ready as soon as we get done. First things first, we're going to come up here. This is a boss area. And there are some archers up here. I think you might be able to call them arbalists, actually. And they tend to annoy the hell out of you while you're fighting this boss. So it's best to just take them out early. Now I believe once we get here, he'll show up. A little further. There we go. Now we're going to come up here. This. And then go right back off. And do a plunging attack for almost half his health. Roll between his legs and get out. Oh, that still hit me. Heal up. Oh no! I'm on the wrong thing. Oh, that was close. Always make sure you check what's on your hotbar at the moment. Because I just tried to heal with another gold pine resin, which doesn't work at all. And GG. There are also emotes. There is no voice comms in this game. No VoIP at all. So there are a few different ways to contact people or interact with them at all. Mostly through gestures, but also when you're not actively in somebody's world, there are these things here which are messages. Beware of back to warn you about the arbalists. I did it just to celebrate that you won. So now we have 4,000 souls and a defeated boss. Now, not every single item is scripted. There are some things that are completely random. For instance, what enemies drop. Nothing has a guaranteed drop. Well, I can't say nothing. Most typical enemies don't have a guaranteed drop.
Hello. You don't look hollow. Far from it. I am Solaire of Astora, an adherent of the Lord of Sunlight. Now that I am undead, I have come to this great land, the birthplace of Lord Gwyn, to seek my very own son. You find that strange? Well, you should. No need to hide your reaction. I get that look all the time. Oh, I have a problem.
Alright, we're gonna... Oh, I messed up. We're gonna skip through this. This is taking just a little bit too long.
Oh,
Well, this is Solaire. He is the broiest of bros. Brolaire.
In a land,
He
so what-
is one of the figureheads of
we
the
are amidst the flow
covenants
the very
here.
There's no toad
as
like
displayed
you
on
think.
his
To
glorious
summon one
chest.
and engage, of course.
The
but
Warriors
I
of
am a
Sunlight
warrior of the...
specialize in being summoned by other players into their worlds to help them beat the area boss. And the item he just gave us, the White Sign Soapstone, allows us to be summoned into an area. I was actually hoping that would do a lot more damage. I still haven't died yet. So let's see if we can fix that. There are a lot of shortcuts in between areas that you can unlock the further you go in. So I finally died. I had to intentionally do it. And then we respawn back at the bonfire. We are no longer human. We have no souls, no humanity. However, if we head up this shortcut we unlocked, you can see this green pile here, which is essentially a soul pile or remains or however you want to look at it. But basically you pick that up and you get back the humanity that was in your soft counter and the souls you had, but you lose the human form. However, that's about gonna do it for me. This has been Dark Souls. This game has been around for a while. You can get it for fairly cheap. The sequel's coming out and not too awfully long, hopefully. And it is one of the greatest games I have ever played. It has the best combat system I have ever used. It is one of the most in-depth and complex games ever. It has the best lore I've ever dealt with. The best presentation for the lore that I've ever dealt with. And just overall, it is it is my absolute favorite game. One of the greatest games I've ever played. And honestly, I always recommend people at least try it for a while. It's difficult to learn, but once you do, the game gets easier and easier and easier the more time you put into it. Well, that's about it for me, guys. Thank you for sitting down and taking a look at my favorite game ever. And that's about it. See ya.